Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily. Yesterday we were talking about cyanide in plants, and we said it was found in sorghum, and I mentioned that was a C4 plant. And today I'm going to talk about what C4 plants are, because if you're growing one hydroponically, then you could be missing a trick if you're not doing some key things to maximize their growth. They are a type of plant, C4 plants, that have a different type of photosynthesis, or certainly a different way of capturing carbon to make sugars. And so we're going to how that is and why they do that and what impact that has on your grow. So first off, plants need CO2 to make sugars by photosynthesis, and most plants use what's called the C3 pathway. That's the vast majority of plants, also known as the Calvin cycle, where CO2 is fixed by an enzyme called rubisco. And rubisco is the most common enzyme in the world. There's more rubisco than any other type of enzyme in the world. It's that crucial. It can bind oxygen and it can bind CO2, and it's the first step in photosynthesis. But it's reversible. And so you get something called photorespiration, where it actually releases CO2 in stressful conditions. Now, C4 metabolism, also known as the Hatch-Slack pathway, after the inventors, I assume, that's evolved a different method for suppressing this photorespiration, this release of CO2 in really stressful conditions. And it works by concentrating CO2 around this rubisco enzyme, so it's in really, really high concentrations, thereby reducing the enzyme's ability to oxygenate in a reaction. So to do this, it has specialized leaf anatomy. Now, the leaf anatomy is called Kranz anatomy. You don't need to know that. It's just got two distinct cell types in the leaf or in the stems. And it's got mesophyll cells, normal cells that make up the spongy middle of a cell, and then it's got bundle sheath cells where the rubisco is. And they have enzymes and metabolic pathways that push these C4, these carbon 4 compounds, through from the mesophyll cells into the bundle sheaths to prevent this photorespiration from occurring. It's very clever, and it results in far higher levels of photosynthesis in stressful conditions, especially when it's really hot and dry and when there's lots of CO2 around. Now, C4 photosynthesis is not as energy efficient as C3. So that's why in temperate climates, like here in the UK, virtually no plants are. In fact, I don't think there's a C4 plant in the British flora or any of the crops that we grow really, apart from maize. And so because of this extra energy cost of having this different bundle sheaths and these different enzymes means that it's in low temperatures when there's plenty of water around, then it's actually beneficial to be C3 plants and not have this extra enzymes and extra anatomy in the plant. It's only when you get into those stressful, serious conditions that you need C4. But as you can imagine, if you bump the temperature up and bump the CO2 levels up, then if you're using a C4 plant, you can get really, really high levels of photosynthesis. That's why plants like maize grow so fast, and sorghum can grow ridiculously fast in hot, dry conditions, and other plants will just wither and die. C4 plants are also a lot more water use efficient and nitrogen use efficient as well, because they can concentrate that carbon dioxide around the enzyme and they don't need to lose water through respiration, so they can keep their stomata closed for longer, the pores in their leaves. So there's something about the biochemistry involved. So which plants are C4? Well, the main crops are maize, sugarcane, sorghum, millets, and certain tropical grasses, some of the sports turf species. Is it zoysia? Something like that. Bermuda grass. If you're in America, you'll be familiar with that species of grass that's used in lots of field sports, and it might even be used in fairways on golf. They're all C4 plants. So sugarcane, sorghum, millets, tropical grasses. If you're growing one of those hydroponically, then you can bump up the lights a lot more than you could normally. And you'd optimize photosynthesis, a lot higher temperatures, increase the CO2 even more, and you might want to increase nitrogen and magnesium to support chlorophyll and the enzyme regeneration. So these plants can really grow rapidly at those higher conditions, as opposed to the C3 plants, which would start to struggle. And then recently, there's been a study that shows that if you feed plants humic acids, C4 plants especially, then that can upregulate genes related to light capture and chlorophyll photosynthesis in maize and improve net photosynthesis rates really high. So saying here, 46.5% increase in net photosynthetic rate. That seems ridiculously high by the addition of just a simple humic acid biostimulant. So I'd really want to look into that more before I started putting but certainly I'd look into it if I was growing something like maize, just to see if adding humic acids could really improve my photosynthetic rates. What else could we say? What other interesting developments have there been on C4 plants? Well, not many. But basically, yeah, if you're growing hydroponically, you're not going to be limited by water availability, which is one of the key benefits of C4 plants. But certainly the high temperatures, you don't need to vent your grow room as much. You can bump the light a lot higher, and you can massively increase, because you're not venting as much, your CO2 levels can go higher. So potentially you could get massive growth if you're growing a C4 plant. So interestingly, cacti don't use C4 necessarily. They use something called CAM photosynthesis, or crassulaeic acid metabolism, where they actually open their stomata, their pores at night, and capture carbon dioxide as acid. A bit like, distilled water is slightly acidic because of the carbon dioxide dissolved in it. Well, they dissolve carbon dioxide as acid in cacti during the night, and then they can keep all their pores closed during the day, and they turn those acids into sugars during the day. So that's what a cactus does. Whereas the C4 plant is just like a C3 plant in that it opens its stomata during the day and closes them at night. It just has this separation of the two different types of cells, and captures them as C4, captures carbon dioxide as a C4 carbon 4 molecule that then goes on to feed the rubisco enzyme to make sugars. The key thing is, if you know that you're growing one of these, then it's those ability to ramp up those environmental conditions to supercharge growth. That's what you need to really be looking at. So if you're one of these scientists who's looking to grow food staple crops in hydroponics, or look at NASA looking at growing crops on Mars or in space, then if you're growing a C4 plant, this is what you need to consider. And then obviously look into that humic acid study as well, because an increase in photosynthetic rates of 46.5% is not to be sniffed at. That's massive. I doubt many people are growing millet hydroponically. It's very much a subsistence crop, isn't it? From Africa and places like that, grows in really, really dry, arid conditions. It's mainly for bird food as well, isn't it, millet? But it's very good for you. So maybe you are growing millet. Maybe you're a health-conscious hydroponic grower. Who knows? So yeah, check it out. If you want to know this humic acid study, then I'll just get it up here. It's by some Chinese scientists, and it's photosynthesis promotion mechanisms of artificial humic acid depending on plant type, a hydroponic study of C3 and C4 plants. Sounds like a good study, this one. So yeah, check it out. It's published by this journal, Sci Total Environment in 2024. So I've never heard of that journal before, but it's not coming up. Anyway, full name of the journal is The Science of the Total Environment. So check it out. If you want to know about humic acids and you're growing maize, I definitely would check that out. And that's been Hydroponics Daily for today. C3 and C4 plants. No idea what I'm talking about tomorrow, but it will be on the podcast at some point during the day. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, if you could leave us an Apple podcast review, it would help out tremendously. Thank you very much. Goodbye.